what's the word? So, NIKKE. We know why we play it. The story, of course. Like, unironically, the story is actually pretty good. But every great story begins with an equally great attention getter. But that's not the point of this video. Whenever I play NIKKE and browse the vast and colorful cast of characters, I actually noticed something unique about each character besides their beautiful, boisterous, and bountiful anatomy. Sorry.
Hey, relax. You need to fucking relax.
And that is their names. I noticed that NIKKEs have already a pretty eclectic array of names ranging from pretty quotidian to what that is. Interesting enough, NIKKEs are assigned names based on what their characters represent and what real life counterparts they are associated with. So while doing some research online, I actually discovered that most NIKKEs adhere to this naming scheme, some of which are very surprising and surprisingly historical. It's always fun when you learn a little piece of history and maybe even some science from a piece of media you least expected from, especially this one. Particularly.
I do this shit for the love of the game.
So today I'd like to go over every NIKKE whose name derives from a real person or based on a character, concept, so on, so on. So, Poihali. Starting with our OG squad, Counters, which is actually short for counterinsurgency, we begin with the poster girl herself, Rappi, whom already off the rip has a little bit of a complicated name, as there is some speculation on what her name truly means since there's no apparent explanation of it in the game. But here are some theories I've come up with. The name Rappi appears as a surname in several cultures ranging from Georgian, Hindi, Russian, and Indonesian, where Indonesia the surname is most prevalent, all of which have varying meanings. Though I do not believe her name derives from the surname Rappi, I believe her name is a corruption or transliteration of the name Rafi from Arabic, which means exalted one, noble one, or God heals. It also means to uplift or raise high in Arabic and is one of the given names for Allah. It also makes sense as she was originally introduced as Rappi Red Hood at the 2019 Korean game conference G-Star, and when you translate Rappi to Korean, it comes out as Nabi, or when transliterated to English, Rappi. It also makes sense given her role in the game and how her sole mission is to uplift the commander and protect him at all costs, truly earning the title as probably the most noble NIKKE out of all of them. Then we have the Queen of Firepower herself and my spirit animal, Neon, whose name is less clear.
You suck!
Since there's not really any cool theories for her name, since Neon in Korean is also Neon, maybe it's a pun since Neon is inert and Neon is very much not an inert person. Or some laser sights have helium neon laser attachments for some firearms. Neon deriving from the Greek word neos, or new, cause she's been acting brand new.
Firepower wins the day!
Or just the Neon Annihilator from TF2. But I believe it's just a cute name for her with no apparent meaning. Anise, I could take the low-hanging fruit if you know what I mean.
Hey! Watch what you say when you're behind me! You're in my line of fire if you know what I mean!
But we would automatically assume, okay, I'll stop where this video will be too long, that her name would derive from the anise flowering plant since her name in Korean is anisu, which is a very aromatic spice with a strong and sometimes overpowering personality ranging from sweet, spicy, and sometimes extremely bitter since it's used to flavor licorice. Kinda perfectly describes anise, but her name also shares an Arabic origin like her squad mate Rappi. The name Anise in Arabic means friendly or friend, which is suiting of her personality, sometimes, but also uses the masculine form of the name instead of the feminine one, which is Anissa, which could be in part of her sometimes masculine energy she gives off occasionally with her character. The final member of Counters we got is Miriam, whose name could come from the Hebrew name Miriam, which in the Bible means rebellion. And in the book of Exodus, she was Moses' sister who was rebuked by God for denouncing Moses marrying an Ethiopian woman and had fallen ill with leprosy. Aaron asked for forgiveness for her, which Moses relayed to God, and she was commanded to leave the Israelite camp for 7 days, which could be allegorical for what does happen to Miriam in the story. It could also mean unique and beloved, which she is from the perspective of the commander, but when she becomes Modernia, her name is much more simple, as Modernia comes from the concept of modernism, and as a member of the heretics, her name is fitting as the philosophy of modernism is seen as a heresy. Modernism is the synthesis of all heresies in Catholicism as stated by Pope Pius X, and is seen as such due to being rooted in modern philosophical teachings of relativism and rooted in intrinsic neo-romantic philosophical elements of radical transformation of human thought and relation to God. It is also succeeded by the philosophy of humanism, which emphasizes human authority, autonomy, and individualism, and postmodernism, which emphasizes skepticism, which you can see why it can be seen as heretical by the church.
Heresy.
as modernism relegates human reasoning in the confines of phenomena which are only perceivable by our senses. So therefore, modernism infers that God cannot be a direct object of science, separating science from God. This is seen as the synthesis of all heresies, since for a good part of history, from the classical era to the Renaissance to the scientific revolution, science was an instrument of humanity to understand God's creations so that humanity could feel closer to the Creator. However, modernism emphasizes that we cannot use science to prove or understand God, as He is a phenomenon outside of the realm of science. Wait, what video was this again? Oh yeah, explaining names. Almost went down the ecclesiastical rabbit hole on this one. Damn. Sorry y'all if I almost put you to sleep. Anyway, her name pretty much means heresy. Now we'll look at NIKKE's by order of manufacture, and let's start with the best manufacturer in the game, which is Elysian. And starting with Exalted One's former squad, Absolute. Emma, for the love of God, don't eat her cooking, doesn't have a particularly foreign or unique name, but Unhwa and Vesti do. Unhwa means silver in Hangul, which I could say because silver is the shiniest and most electrical conductive of all metals, or that it takes an average of 47 pulls to get her, and the atomic number of silver is 47, but I don't think it's that deep. It's just a cute name for a hard head. Got it! Vesti, on the other hand, translates to
Vesti
from Korean, which, well, come on, who wanna be her best friend?
What am I good at? Killing?
Infinity Rail, a squad desperately needed in the United States, particularly the Chicago Red Line.
I suck your nuts, nigga. I suck your nuts!
All have names that derive from trains, which is pretty cool. Diesel's name is self-explanatory, and no, Diesel doesn't taste like strawberry candy, so don't even try it. Her name just derives from diesel fuel, which is used in diesel locomotives and a variety of trains across the world. Ironically, her easygoing, bright personality is quite the opposite of big-ass diesel engine trucks, but is more reliable and efficient than gasoline, so I guess it's fitting. And speaking of which, Solene is short for gasoline, which is the primary fuel source of internal combustion locomotives, and gasoline is more refined than diesel, but thinner in density and more volatile, maybe pertaining to her arrogant attitude and a short stature. Brit is just short for hybrid, which, like the last two, is a type of train which uses two sources of energy, often diesel and electric together. Fitting, since hybrid trains are also known for their efficiency, which is a key part of her personality. The next squad, the Scouts, have names which relate to military terminology, such as Delta, which is IRSA alphabetical code for D, like Delta Force, the most elite force in the US military, fitting for a tactical centered personality. And Signal, who is in charge of communications in her squad and is the signal operator, which she gets her name from, as seen as with the big ass communication receiver she lugs around all day. Seriously, how does she lug that thing around all day? Fun fact, she carries a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 in her dramatic chocolate skin, which is pretty based. Squad Aegis is pretty simple. They're based off the components of a ship. Helm, the squad leader, is the wheel which steers the ship, signifying her leadership of the squad Aegis. Best girl runner-up, Anchor, gets her name of the metal device of the same name, used by ships to keep the vessel from drifting, signifying her love of the sea life and her propensity to always be wet. And Mast, another contender for best girl, gets her name from the mast of a ship which carries a sail, highlighting her vivacious personality and go-getter high sailing attitude. Fun fact, she has several references to pirates, like her event names Pirates of the Caspian referencing the Pirates of the Caribbean, her blah blah profile referencing One Piece, the skull on her pirate's heart costume referencing, and her parrot is named after the pirate Henry Morgan. Sorry y'all know how I feel about pirates, so I'm a little biased. Squad Extrinsic gets their name from the word which means operating from the outside, which is exactly what their squad does as a black ops squad who deals with irregulars and takes care of them on the low. Guillotines, who looks and acts like Fisher from Genshin. Full name is actually Guillotine de Mephisto, which aligns with her execution-based personality, and squad, where her name derives from what I like to call the French circumcision. And Mephisto, who is a Marvel villain in Devil's Name in Faust, which reinforces the of her name. The squad leader, Maiden, who I learned is actually playing Final Fantasy XIV, is a reference to the Iron Maiden, which is another execution device. It could be a reference to the Final Fantasy XIV event, the Maiden's Rhapsody, or just be because she is technically a maiden, being an unmarried woman who would rather spend her time grinding like the rest of us than to actually socialize and find a partner.
For real?
ACPU
SPD emergency.
stands for Arc City Police University?
Hey pal, You just blowing from Stupid Town?
I don't know, but all members all have simple law-related terms. Miranda being named after the Miranda rights, which is the warning American police gives before you get arrested or shot. Polly is short for police, and Query is short for inquiry, which is also short for arrest inquiry, which is a database to look up booked inmates in jail or prison. Perilous Siege, like Extrinsic, is also a Black Ops squad, but deals with higher up matters of corruption. D, who assassinates potential security risk, is the only playable member of the squad and is both short for her undercover name Diana and her real name Daisy.
Hello there, cutie pie.
The other is K, who is speculated to be a playable NIKKE in the future and could also be short for her code name. Last of Elysium's known NIKKE, but certainly not least, Marciana, the only known member of Squad Academia, is the MMR vocational teacher, with MMR standing for Matchmaking Radio System. Not just killing, it just means Macilis Military Research Facility. But, like League, her name doesn't have a clear meaning, but the name Marciana does derive from the name Mars, which is the god of war in the Roman pantheon, but I can't see how this correlates to her personality. Next, I'll go over Macilis, ran by Miss Bitch herself, Suin, who also goes by, and I quote, insufferable bitch, sack of monkey brains, Nimrod, and snot. All pretty suiting names, I dare say, but her name also transliterates in English to Shuin, which is a character which appears in Juken Sentai Geki Ranger episode. Probably no correlation, but still, I thought it was pretty interesting. But back to the NIKKE, following the theme, starting with the most elite squad of Macilis, Matisse, whose squad name derives from the word mathematiques. The entire squad are all named after real-life polymaths and mathematicians, starting with Maxwell, who shares the name with one of, if not the greatest physicists to ever live, James Clerk Maxwell, who can be attributed to the theory of electromagnetic field, which describes electricity, magnetism, and light as different manifestations of the same phenomenon, which led to the creation of Maxwell's equation for electromagnetism, leading us to a better understanding how electrons and particles interact to give us one of the four fundamental forces of nature, which is electromagnetism, which also has revolutionized society, fitting for the most intelligent NIKKE and Matisse. Then there's who gets her name not from the freaky ass 69 god himself, but someone far more reputable, Frank Drake, a renowned astrophysicist who was responsible for the attempts to discover and communicate with extraterrestrial life beyond Earth, with the SETI experiment Project Ozma, and later developing the Drake equation, which is an equation which attempts to quantify the approximate number of potential life forms that could be discovered within the observable universe. Laplace, the annoying yet endearing hero herself, is named after one of my actual heroes, Pierre-Simon Marquis de Laplace, who was a French polymath who had made prolific discoveries in several areas of science such as mathematics, statistics, philosophy, astronomy, and physics. One discovery being the Laplace equation and Laplace transform, the worst nightmare and mortal reminder to any mathematician and physicist out there. If you know, you know. And also what Laplace's in-game transformation is based off of. Fun fact, he was also the examiner to another one of my heroes, Napoleon, when he was in the military academy, so I might also be a little biased with this one as well. With the Diddy Squad, Wardress.
I like when you like this, Daddy. Daddy, I like when you scrambling and scraping for shit. I like that.
I don't think either of them have any particular meaning to their names, since Uni and Mihara are pretty standard Japanese names, unless I'm missing something here. Let me know if there is something I'm missing, if there is. Mighty Tools, their names are pretty simple. Centi is named after the unit of measurement centimeter, and Leader is named after, well, the unit of measurement liter, which is sorta ironic. You would think their names would be swapped, but I think their names suit them fine as a greenhorn myself. Recall and Release is an experimental squad related to researching Nymph and its relationship to NIKKE memory, which causes them to wipe their memories, hence the name Recall and Release, which is exactly what they did to their sole member An, or N102. It isn't explained why she was given her name by the researchers, but what I came up with is she's named after the IBM code, a part of the N1 segment in Windows servers, with the code N102 element, which identifies the name of the entity or individual, which correlates to the character's inability to struggle to grasp her identity and the memories of her past, as if she was simply a computer code or ghost in a shell. MMR, which I previously stated is short for Macilis Military Research, are responsible for the research and development for weapons and medicine in the Ark. They have two known members, with the Ether being the only playable one. Appropriate enough, her name comes from a group of chemical compounds which have 2 oxygen atoms attached and 2 carbon atoms, called diethyl ether. The name suits her scientific and experimental nature, tinkering with different chemicals and medical compounds, and Mana, her co-workers, also also a researcher, and her name comes from the Polynesian life force energy known as mana, but it's unknown how her name correlates to the concept. Exotic are a group of ex-cons whose group name perfectly describes their personality. Their names come from animals of the same name. Crow's cold, ruthless, and calculative attitude is akin to a crow's temperament. Fun fact, she has a symbol of corn from Warhammer on her left shoulder, which is extremely based. Jackal's simplistic and easygoing, lackadaisical personality is also akin to a jackal's cooperative and highly adaptable temperaments, and Viper is just toxic. Definitely a girl who'd ruin your life. Just look at her.
Do you want to know what I'm thinking?
Real Kindness, the group of current convicts, because I sure as hell did not finish the rehabilitation quest still, are locked up like Akon because they are considered too dangerous to roam for good reason. Guilty is named after exactly what she is. Guilty. My baby girl Sin,
Oh, this is excellent.
is named after her exact nature and some sort of weird thing in Xanarkin. And Big Bitty Quincy,
Excellent.
as much as I wanted her to be named after the freakster Quincy Jones or Quincy from Bleach, is just short for delinquency, which she might have committed some petty crimes to get locked up. Some shenanigans, some tomfoolery even. Julia from Master Hand, a ceremonial squad of musicians, could get her name from a number of violinists of the same name. Dazzling Pearl, the MMR vocational school squad composed of its graduates, are named after mythological serpents. Naga, named after the race of serpents in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, has a tattoo on her back that reads Zelem Elohim, which translates to in the image of God in Hebrew. A nod to how Nikkes are made in the image of Goddess Victory, Nikke.
He said it! He said it!
Or Nike, whom the series derive its name from. Tia, her squad mate, gets her name from Tiamat, which is a female anthropomorphic sea serpent dragon in Mesopotamian mythology. Electric Shock is another R&D squad dedicated to developing electronic instruments to the Ark, composed of the boom-slang, boom-boom-boom E-Leg, whose character is just a representation of who we all wanted as a gamer girlfriend in our teenage years. It is also a direct reference to Doom, and her weapon is a reference to
Boomstick.
No, not him. To Ash Williams' gun in Evil Dead. Her r/femcell Grippy Sock's best friend Trani with E-Leg combined to amply form the word electronics or electroni. And the last of Macilla's Heavygram, a squad composed of Gundams, has Kilo, who probably weighs a ton of them. A ton of kilos? That's only 907 kilograms, right? Definitely more than that. Now for Tetra, of course, beginning with the strongest Nikkes from their line, Cafe Sweetie, are freelance fixers who happen to run a Starbucks as their day job. Their names are the components of coffee: sugar, spice, and nope, that's not coffee. Sugar, who despite her demeanor has a sweet side when it comes to her friends. Frima, another one of my spirit animals, is the name of a Korean coffee creamer of the same name. And Milk, who I suspect might be on the juice rather than milk.
I'll take you all on!
Unlimited seems to have an unlimited number of SSRs. They're a search and rescue squad who scouts the northern tundras outside of the Ark. Alice is a girl with a wild and vivid childlike imagination, just like her namesake Alice, the protagonist from Alice in Wonderland, which is interesting because she is the only Nikke with a fairy tale name that is not a pilgrim. She calls the protag Rabbity and the Rapture leader Queen of Hearts, which is also references from Alice in Wonderland. Rabbity being the white rabbit who leads her down the rabbit hole in a novel, and Queen of Hearts being the main antagonist on her Shroom trip. Ludmila is a common Slavic name for a Russian-looking ice queen such as herself. It also means beloved by the people, which she believes she is, as she refers to herself as queen, which she is, of course. Neve is named after a type of snow found in glaciers called neve, suiting her polar bear-like personality and what she is called by Alice. Nanook is a name of an Inuit deity which is associated with bears. The last most recent member of the squad, Tove, has two possible reasons for her name. One, she could be named after the species of badger in another one of Lewis Carroll's novels, Jabberwocky, or two, could be a Scandinavian name derived from the Old Norse name Tolfa, a short form of however you pronounce this. Prima Donna are a squad composed of musical performers. Their names are just simply terms for sound, with volume the Nikke that made us all first go yes! Noise, and Aria, who's a sister. Also, her name is a portion of opera with one singer. Talentum, which means a sum of money in ancient Greece, are a squad of business owners and venture capitalists who stimulate the Ark's economy. They're comprised of everything that's wrong with capitalism, or everything right, depending on what your view of economics are. They're all named after different currencies from around the world. Dollar, who will make you holla, is named after the US dollar, and her ambitious entrepreneurship signifies a type of capitalism which the US is bolstered on. Rupee is named after the Indian rupee and signifies a consumerist culture which is associated with. And yuan named after the Chinese currency yuan, signifying, well, corporate greed. Seraphim is the Ark's medical support squad named after the Seraph, who are angelic beings in Judaism and are also associated with purity and healing, which is what their squad represents. The squad is composed of herbs and spices, with Mary named after rosemary, which is a herb that is also used in holistic medicine. Can you please open your eyes? And Pepper, not named after the spice. Ah, I got you guys. She's actually named after, ready for it? Dr. Pepper. You get it? Cause she's the sweet one? No? No good? Okay, I'll move on. The Penth is a squad which gets its name from a plant named after a Greek mythological drug which cures sorrow. They're a sports squad dedicated to promoting public health, and they all have interesting names which are related to plants. Epinel refers to the French word for thorn, épine. Folkwang deriving her name from Folkvanger, which is a field of the dead ruled by Valkyrie goddess Freya in Norse mythology, and Umani, possibly named after Rumanek, which is Polish for chamomile. The Garonaris gets their name from a cast iron cannon in the Royal Navy. They're a heavy artillery squad based on cannons. Mika is short for a demi-cannon, a medium-sized cannon used in 17th century artillery, and Balorda named after the Cassabel, which is a sub-assembly of a muzzle-loading cannon. The squad, I think, is just a cash grab gimmick. That's just me personally. Made for You are a squad of maids dedicated to serving citizens of the Ark.
Lucky.
They're just named after beverages. Cocoa after hot cocoa, soda. Alright, come on now, that's just overkill. After pop, and aid is the suffix for citrus beverages like lemonade, limeade, Gatorade, etc. Protocol is a squad which gathers intel for the central office. Exia, the gamer girl who can rival Electric Shock by herself, could possibly be named after either an EXE executable file for computers, seeing as she is a part of the master race of course, or the Gundam of the same name. Novel is a clear reference to the Sherlock Holmes novels, as she's also referred to the protag as Watson. Happy Zoo is an animal management squad who are devoted to bettering the lives of animals. Biscuit, who personifies a dog, is named after a doggy biscuit. Nero personifies a cat, is named after Neko, which is cat in Japanese, and Leona, who personifies a lion, is named after a lion. Underworld Queen is a squad which oversees the criminal underworld, basically crime lords, Baf and Wu. Sakura represents the Yakuza, Japanese crime syndicate based on her appearance and demeanor. Rosanna is based on Italian-American mafias.
Real greaseball shit.
And Moran is the only one who I know is named after a real-life gangster, Bugs Moran, who is a Prohibition-era gangster, a part of the Irish Mafia North Side gang in Chicago, and also met his fate in the St. Valentine's Day massacre by the hands of, allegedly, Al Capone. School Circle is yet another MMR vocational school squad. I don't know how many they need, but they are comprised of exceptional students. They are based on numbers from German and representative of their respective school years. Ray, short for Dre in German, which is the number 3, Ein in German for the number 1, and Zwei being the number 2 in German. 777 is a squad used to promote gambling addicts and run Coin Rush, the biggest casino in the art. They are simply colors in French, with the white one being blanc and the black one being noir. There are 3 NIKKE and an inner manufacturer squad named Triangle, which are a component of the central government to maintain order within the Ark. They have 3 members. Privity, or Privity, I don't give a f how you pronounce it, might have the weirdest name in the game because her name in the beta was supposed to be Liberty due to her role in the central government, but I guess due to a mistranslation it finalizes Privity or Privity for some reason. My reasoning is that Triangle was made to fit the scheme of military ranks, with Privity being private, Admi short for admiral, and Yulha is apparently a rank used in the Korean military, with Sa being ranks ending with Wa at the end being the rank of a senior field grade officer, but I'm kind of uncertain on this. If you're Korean, let me know. Last but not least are the Pilgrims, who are the rarest units in the game. Red Hood, who was the OG NIKKE, a part of the Goddess Squad along with Snow White and Scarlet, is named after Little Red Riding Hood and has the most badass activation quote, "A wolf has to die at the bottom of the well," in direct reference to the Brothers Grimm version of the fairy tale. Interbred Filthy Cow's name is named Wolfsbane. That's just, she's cold, but not as cold as the canonically best girl in the game and my wife, Snow White, who is a pioneer who likes to eat Bush's baked beans well past their expiration date. She's named after the character Snow White from the German fairy tale Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which her weapons are also named after. And the gooner Rapunzel is named after the eponymous fairy tale, and her libido could be a reference to her getting by the prince in the fairy tale. For real, look it up for yourself.
They didn't tell you.
Not how I remember it, huh? And Lily-wise, the first NIKKE ever, the leader of the defunct Goddess Squad and canonically the strongest NIKKE ever produced, is translated from German to White Lily. It is based off of the demon Lilith in Jewish tradition as the first wife of Adam and was cast out of the Garden of Eden as a succubus. And Herod is a group of pilgrims who are based on biblical figures as well, as they are equipped with advanced weaponry from Eden, referencing the biblical Garden of Eden, which was the paradise on earth whom the first man, Adam and Eve, roamed in Genesis of the Bible. Noah, their leader, is named after Noah from the book of Genesis, best known for his faith in God, leading him to build the ark to save mankind and animals from the great biblical flood. Haran is named after Abraham's brother and Lot's father in the book of Genesis, and Isabel is the Spanish name of Elisheba, the wife of the prophet Aaron, who was Moses' older brother in the book of Exodus. And weirdly, Dorothy follows the naming scheme of the pioneers instead, with her name being a reference to the main character Dorothy Gale in The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Like Modernia, the heretics are named after philosophies which are deemed heretical by the Catholic Church, going off the biblical theme of the aforementioned pilgrims. Nihilister, based on nihilism, which is the belief that life is meaningless. Liberalio, named after the political and moral philosophy which focuses on the rights and freedoms of an individual, and Indivilia, similar based on the philosophy of individualism which emphasizes individual freedom, and Anarchiro, based on the philosophy of anarchism which rejects all forms of authority and promotes the abolition of institutions. And finally, we have White Knight, who are mercenaries who seek valuables and treasures. They have two members, one of them being named Crown, based on a king's crown as she refers to herself as king rather than queen, and Chime, who I'm not quite sure what her name refers to, but is it just me or did she behead Izanagi? There you have it, folks. Every NIKKE so far, all explained. Hope this video wasn't as useless as your typical NIKKE smash or pass video, because they're not men, they're all passes.
Alright, get lost, all of you. You're fired. Go on, scram, get out of here, you moochers. Except you stay.
I need more bullets.
Let me know if I missed any potential names or explanations, or if I got any of them wrong, or tell me your interpretation of your favorite NIKKE's name. Thanks for watching, and Godspeed.